Greetings and welcome to Fright Night Flicks, where every night is Fright Night. Every year delivers its share of cinematic highs and lows, and even the horror genre isn't immune to this occasional letdown. Today I'll be counting down my top 10 least favourite horror films of 2024. I don't like saying worst because these aren't the worst, these are just my least favourite. While some of these are deniably terrible, others simply failed to meet my expectations or left a sour taste for one reason or another. Remember, this list is entirely subjective. This is just my opinion. Just because a film disappointed me doesn't mean it didn't resonate with others. So, if your favourite pops up on here, don't take it personally. It's all part of the discussion we love about horror. So with that all said and done, let's dive into the horror misfires of 2024. Kicking off this list is Heretic, a film that I feel like I'm in the minority for not enjoying. While Hugh Grant's performance is undeniably the highlight, the rest of the film left me feeling underwhelmed. The plot dragged on for far too long and the visual style felt uninspired, lacking the creativity I was hoping for. What really soured my experience of Heretic was how it approached its themes. Instead of offering a nuanced commentary on religion, it felt more like a lecture on how religion is fake. And that's coming from somebody who identifies as agnostic.
Not a great plan.
It's not that the film shouldn't question religion, but it felt more preachy than thoughtful, which made it difficult for me to engage with. I just wish there had been more depth to the story and the way it explored its ideas. Unfortunately, Heretic left me disappointed. In ninth place is Zelda Williams' directorial debut, Lisa Frankenstein. It's frustrating because whilst this film boasts a unique and quirky visual style, the plot and character development are seriously lacking. Zelda Williams clearly has an eye for style, and I give her credit for that. Lisa Frankenstein definitely stands out visually. However, the story feels undercooked and the characters don't have the depth they need to make them compelling.
Gee, that's disappointing.
The performances too were a letdown, especially from Kathryn Newton, and a script that doesn't play into her strengths. It's disappointing to see so much talent from both Diablo Cody, the writer, and Kathryn Newton not coming together here in a more cohesive way. Well, I am excited to see what Williams does behind the camera next. Lisa Frankenstein isn't a strong debut film for her that I was hoping for. I truly hope her next film offers more substance along with her impressive visual flair. In 8th place is the remake of Salem's Lot, which was released straight to streaming in the US. Going into this film without reading the book or seeing the original adaptation, I honestly walked away feeling like I got nothing out of it. While the visual style was impressive for a straight to streaming film, the rest of the movie falls apart. The story and characters are incredibly bland and forgettable, and the performances didn't leave much of an impression. For a Stephen King story, which has produced some excellent films in the past, this one just didn't live up to the standards. It's disappointing to see a film with potential from the source material wasted in a film that ultimately fell flat and lacked the intentional depth that makes King's story so compelling.
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
In 7th place, we have Lee Daniels' The Deliverance, a film I was really disappointed in, especially after watching Precious for the first time this year and absolutely loving it. Whilst I know Lee Daniels is a talented director, horror just doesn't seem to be his genre. The horror elements are almost non-existent, making the film feel more like a typical Netflix drama film, with a bland visual style that fails to captivate.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Although Andre, Monique and Glenn Close all deliver strong performances, they couldn't save the film from being ultimately lackluster. What makes this film especially disappointing is the fact that I expect better from Lee Daniels after making films like Precious. He made an Oscar-winning film before, so I was hoping there'd be a lot here, but Deliverance doesn't even come close to the emotional depth or impact of Precious. I know I'm comparing one film to the other and it doesn't seem fair, but when a director has made a good film like Precious and then comes out with Deliverance, it's kind of disappointing. The only redeeming part of the film was Andre. His performance reminded me how great she was in the United States of Billie Holiday. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough to elevate the film as a whole. In 6th place, we have Immaculate, a star vehicle film for Sydney Sweeney to flex her range into horror. Although Sweeney gives a solid performance in this film, the rest of the film just feels like it's boasting her career rather than expressing itself as an art or telling a cohesive story. The whole film just comes across as generic and could have benefited from having some script tweaks and some bigger names in the cast to support her in this film. I'm happy Sydney Sweeney has had her big break into horror, but personally I think she's better than that.
If you're good at something, never do it for free.
Kicking off the top 5 is The Watchers, the directorial M. Night Shyamalan's daughter, Ashana. Unfortunately, this film didn't live up to its potential. The story is forgettable, the characters are hard to connect with, and the plot is simply not engaging.
Man, that is flagrant false advertising.
I found the acting to be weak, and the production values suffered from a lot of the typical first-time director mistake. While I can see promises in Shana's direction, her debut is a misstep, and there's definitely room for improvement moving forward. I'm still hoping that she finds her footing in future projects, but this one didn't make the impression I was hoping for. Just missing the top 3 is the long-awaited remake of The Crow, which in my mind is a complete insult to the original 90s classic. The film's lacklustre plot, terrible acting and poor direction from Rupert Sanders make it feel more like a pilot for a CW show rather than a serious cinematic remake. While I can appreciate the music of Walter Bertman, even he couldn't save this film from being a complete misfire. Honestly, I'll go as far as say this is the one film I hated the most this year. It strips away everything that made the original so unique and turns the character of Eric Draven into more of an emo rapper than a tragic gothic anti-hero we love.
How dare you stand where he stood?
Bill Skarsgård may have kept his life making this film, but he, alongside the rest of the cast and crew, have all lost their souls in creating this abysmal remake. Before I dive into my top 3 worst horror films of 2024, I just want to remind you all to like this video and subscribe to Fright Night Flicks so you don't miss a single scare. Also, give us a follow on Facebook and Blue Sky. I've reviewed all these films in full video, so make sure you check out all of those for my deeper thoughts on each one. With that all said and done, let's get back to the list. The bronze pick goes to Apartment 7A, the Rosemary's Baby prequel, which unfortunately failed to deliver the devilish thrills we were hoping for. The visual style looks too polished and bleak, failing to capture the eerie atmosphere that the original film so masterfully crafted. The story is predictable and lacks stakes, especially since we already know what happens to the protagonist, making it hard to stay invested. On top of that, the performances feel forgettable, with nobody truly standing out or leaving a lasting impression. Apartment 7A embodies everything that's wrong with prequel films. It doesn't add anything meaningful to the Rosemary's Baby lore and ends up being more forgettable than the other films on this list. To me, a forgettable horror is even a worse crime than a truly bad one, and that's why it earns its place at number 3.
I'm very disappointed in you.
In second place is the straight-to-streaming film Hold Your Breath, a movie that honestly feels like it shouldn't have been made. The storyline is bland and forgettable, failing to spark any interest or excitement. The acting feels wooden and the visual style, especially in night scenes, is just downright awful, making it hard to see what's going on.
Wow, that was weird.
It's clear to me that this film suffers from creative differences between its two directors. The result is a jumbled mess that, in my opinion, Disney should just written off for tax reasons. I feel especially sorry for the talents like Sarah Paulson who had to star in such an awful film. And my number 1 pick for worst horror film of 2024 is the absolute worst film of the year, Night Swim. Honestly, who even greenlit this film? The plot is ridiculous, the acting is terrible, and the production design feels lackey and cheap, and the score does absolutely nothing to build tension or atmosphere. While I hope the director sees this as a learning curve the same way Fear and Desire was to Stanley Kubrick, I ultimately blame the producers for allowing this film to be made in the first place. Night Piece is the biggest piece of trash I've seen all year, and the worst part is, it's not even bad in a fun way.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
Thank you all for watching today's video. Let me know your thoughts on the worst horror films of 2024 in the comments down below, as well as your thoughts on my list. I'll be back soon with a new video, but until then, stay spooky.